Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 501. This is a kind of rerun of the aborted one from last week, where I know many of you thought that perhaps I hadn't been paying my bills, but the ISP in the area just failed for about 3 hours, 3 minutes into the show. What are the chances of that? So we're going to have a rerun of those topics because there were a lot of topics last week. We've actually got some more guests this week. So we'll say hello to everybody first, and then we'll move on. I suppose what I should also say is thank you very much to our sponsors. Isotope, you'll be able to win a copy of Isotope RX6 a little bit later on, and stay tuned there. And also I want to say thank you very much to our chatties. We've got the people in the chat room there, so I can bring you in, and also all of you folks watching by YouTube. We are actually a podcast to do with music technology and all of those things. So if that's the sort of thing that floats your boat, subscribe to our channel, and you'll get a whole bunch of other stuff besides. We do reviews. I've got the new Roland SEO2 preview video coming up, and we've got a whole bunch of new things as well. So let's just go to Gaz Williams, who's over there in Bristol, a professional bass player, music technologist, producer, mastering engineer, all of those things. How you doing, Gaz?
Very good, and at the risk of being banned off the show forevermore, I just got to say those down with the nuts. There we go. Anyway,
your mic is rubbing very heavily on something on your person when you vigorously move around like
down,
that. So.
Yeah. Down Nazis, down with Nazis. I'm sorry, it has to be said, but down with Nazis. There we go.
I think that's fair enough. Okay, right, and we've also got Div Kid Ben Wilson, who's there in his modular cave where he puts lots of videos up on YouTube. If you go at Div Kid, or the Div Kid video is his YouTube channel. Nice to have you back, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Down with the Nazis, as Gaz said. All good. Synth videos. We've got the Modular Meets Leeds event this weekend, so that's occupying most of my time.
Go on, give it a plug then.
Yeah, so wasn't intending that. I wasn't trying to shoehorn in. Leeds free this weekend. We've got Chris Carter of Throbbing Gristle playing, Scanner, VCO ADSR, lots of modular music, which may seem weird. Two things that maybe don't always coincide. Manufacturers, user meet. Just search Modular Meets Leeds if anyone's interested.
And I can concur. It's a great event. We went last year and it was brilliant. We can't make it this weekend, but yeah, nice one, Ben. And also we have there we go. Mr. Ty Unwin. Sorry, it's a new button on my controller. Mr. Ty Unwin is media composer in his synth cave, where he's producing outrageous amounts of music cues on a daily basis and many other things besides. How on earth are you, Ty? It feels like a long time.
Well, it's only been a few weeks, although it feels a long time for me because I've literally had 1 hour sleep, and
wow.
I did an all-nighter, and I kind of finished just before 2 this afternoon, and so I've had 1 hour sleep and then woken up, and also I feel that I have to concur with everyone else, and absolutely huge time down with the Nazis, and I just had to say that because otherwise I'd hate to think that everyone else said it and I was here and didn't, in every single possible bone of my body, completely concur. You idiots. Anyway, carry on. This is a music show, so let's do some
shows, right?
Yay!
Okay, right. So let's get on to it. We've got a lot of stuff this week because last week, obviously, Roland announced it was 808 Day, wasn't it? 8th of the 8th, and they basically announced a whole bunch of stuff. So let's start with this guy.
Ooh. TR-808. I got the right hat on today for this.
This little TR-808 sounds really good. I'm very impressed. I mean, it's even more futuristic than my original 808.
It's so instantly recognizable, yet every time you turn it on, you can do something completely different with it.
I think it's incredible because it's compact, and at the same time, it still has that analog sound.
Right, I won't play the whole thing. That's the first of these items to come up. This is the new TR-08, which is different to the TR-8, which is an 808 and a 909 and other drum machine models, ACB Roland, and they've done it. And I must admit, the form factor and the interface really does seem to make sense in this boutique style. I don't know if any of you have experienced the 808 love. Maybe I'll start with you, Div Kid. I mean, 808s, they are a bit like the Holy Grail. If you see someone who's got one, you think it's like a status symbol almost, isn't it? Because, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily take it out on the road or anything, but just having one is sort of pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I nearly bought one recently and thought, why am I going to shell out kind of £3,000 towards an 808? I mean, as ridiculous as this Tower Modular is, you know, I like smaller cases that do certain things, and I've got a drum machine that I feel covers, well, 808 and way more, whether I want to make the sounds or just quickly fire up a sound. The interesting thing with this is there was a comparison video between the 808 and the new TR8. And they're slightly different, but for those that have heard a few 808s, I think I've only ever heard possibly four in person, and not next to each other, but they all seem to leave me with a different kind of flavour in my mind each time. A bit like having a hand-built instrument or a hand-hammered cymbal. There's always going to be some variance that I think just comes from tolerances of the old original ones. I've heard one that I didn't like, to be honest, just at the time. And maybe that was where I was at sound-wise, but I've not liked them. I've liked them. I've nearly bought one. Originals, this is. I think the new one looks great, other than just being a little bit tiny for my big hands.
Well, there is that. That's the boutique effect, admittedly. So, yes, you are going to get that kind of thing going on. I'm going to come to you now, Ty. Have you got an 808?
No.
But you've got a lot of the boutiques, though, haven't you?
I've got most of the boutiques. And, you know, I mean, the thing is with the boutiques, it's the same thing every time. You know, I make the same comments every time, which is, I mean, yeah, they are too small. I mean, if you could say it's too small, they are too small, especially as, you know, as Div Kid said, fat fingers. And, but they sound great. You know, that's the bottom line. And I mean, I've got a TR8, as well, so I'm kind of sorted, but I'm still just tempted from a form factor, because although I'm going, it's too small. At the same time, there's something very endearing about it, isn't there?
It is, yeah. I think it looks actually really cute. There's something about it that really does. I agree.
And I think this is kind of it's kind of the issue and the selling point, if that makes sense, because these are aimed as well as, you know, kind of young people. God, listen to me. Sorry, I'm going to apologise now because I've had no sleep. I'm going to talk.
That's all right. That's fine. You carry on.
But the you know, for younger up and coming producers and musicians, they're great because they mean you get. Fair enough, you could say it's old technology, but you get classics in a small box for not cheap, but, you know, not a lot of money compared to, as we're saying, the originals. But at the same time, there has to be a demographic of my kind of age who wanted all these things. We all wanted Jupiter 8s and, you know, 106s and all this kind of thing. And now we can get them all in these little boxes. And you've seen the photo that they use for the advertising, where they're all just in this little pattern, all the old boutiques in this pattern. And I define anyone to look at them and just go, oh, do you know what? I just love to have the whole collection, because they just from a want point of view, there's something, human nature taking something big and making it mini. There's something in human nature that finds that very appealing. This is why you have mini dogs and, you know, kind of mini cars, and people like to have things small, even though a lot of the time it's less practical than the big version. There's something very appealing about them. And yeah, I mean, I think I don't need this 08 at all. I mean, I have so many drum machines and I swore I'd never buy any more. But it's very sweet and it looks great. It sounds wonderful, you know.
Yes, I think that's a fair point. I mean, and I guess it comes down to, you know, as we say, they don't all sound the same. I know, Gaz, you are somewhat known for miniature, handy-sized instruments. Is this something that's appealing to you, this kind of whole notion of, you know, having an 808 in some form?
Yes, and kind of, you know, I know Ty's got one as well. We've, you know, bought these Vermona DRMs, which I think are amazing. So in a way, that's done it for me for drums. I just love it. So from needing something, I'm not needing it because I've got something there that I find is joyful. Although it doesn't exactly do the same things, it ticks the boxes for me. But so in terms of actually wanting one, I don't really want one, but I do concur with Ty. There is that sort of nice thing. What I would say is, I wonder if Roland have sort of like, they've kind of got themselves stuck with the boutique, really, haven't they? The boutique range, that size of things, they've kind of they've kind of locked themselves into that format a little bit now, and they've got the accessories, the extra keyboard, and the other one that just allows it to go on a raked angle. So it's a little bit of a shame, isn't it? I think that they would undermine their other product line if they were to bring ones out a little bit bigger. However, I think, unlike, say, the SEO2, which I know that you've got particular issue with the size of it, I think this one doesn't actually need to be bigger. Actually, I think the actual amount of controls for the 808 are relatively small.
Yeah,
I mean,
it looks like it's kind of a nicely matched output. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing with the 808 is that, and I was surprised when I first played with the real one, just how little variation in the sounds there actually are. There's only a few parameters that you can adjust, and even then, the range of those parameters are all within quite sensible kind of areas. So it's certainly not a sound designer tool, is it? Like, say, I'm talking about the Vimona, for instance. You can really get very creative with the sound design aspect, really build your own kits up on that. Whereas with the 808, there's little bits that you can do, with, like, obviously the decay and the tuning.
Yeah, I mean, well, everything has a place, I suppose, in the 808 sound.
Yeah,
you've got the bibble bobble toms, you've got the big doof kick, and but they're very specific. And I suppose you wouldn't necessarily use it as your just an 808 kit, perhaps.
But I'm surprised, like I was with the 303 and the 909 that they put out, why they haven't actually called them 909 and 808 and 303. Instead we've got this confusing naming. They did it with the 303, didn't they? When they brought out that, they already had the
TB3, the TR3, TB03. Yeah, it's like the TR8 and the TR08. It's just I know.
And like that 808, 909, 303, those are completely catchy. I don't understand why they didn't use those titles. They've gone for this accuracy. They're really trying to make a big deal on how accurate it sounds and how it looks the same. So why didn't they use maybe their biggest asset there? Just call it that. It's stupid, I think.
That's a fair point. I mean, going back to the size of it, me and Ben were discussing this prior to the show. I think there's an issue with fader sizes, say, for instance. So, for instance, they've got these, I think they're 30mm faders. The next size up we thought was 80mm, which would mean that, say, the JP08, you couldn't fit that. You'd have to make the boutique form factor bigger. So, and then the next one up is too big. So there's a sort of design aesthetic, and the availability of parts as well, I think, is probably an issue for the boutique. But I do think they sort of have painted themselves into a corner by going that small, because I think it works really nicely for the drum machines, but I don't think it works so well for the synths, personally. So, speaking of synths, obviously, we've also got this one as well. So, they've been on a roll. The SH01A, which in this video sounds beefy as hell. This is another ACB.
The SH01A boutique recreates Roland's highly coveted SH101 synthesizer. The SH101 was a single oscillator powerhouse known for its flexibility, portability, and simplicity.
I won't play the whole thing, but lots of people swear by the 101. I mean, the 101 style sequencer for programming lines live. I mean, in fact, I saw Vile Electrodes play at Cincy, and Martin is programming sequences into the 101, which he's using live, which presumably he'll want to replace with perhaps this, although he'll need a keyboard with it as well, and then just having those running for the next song. So, I mean, I don't know whether that's a kind of a thing, but it's another iconic instrument, that is being reimagined for the boutique range. I don't know what. I know, Ty. I'll come to you. Have you got a 101?
I've had 3 over the years. It's one of those synths where I had one and then sold it, and then thought I couldn't live without it, so bought another one, and I did that 3 times. And at the moment, I don't have a one. I have an MC202, which is essentially almost the same sound engine.
And they're tiny faders.
They are very tiny faders. So hey, this one looks huge to me. I'm looking at this one going, wow, I don't like this giant size factor they're going with this. So I have a 202, but I mean, 101 is one of those instruments from my point of view, I have to admit, I kind of rose-tinted spectacles. I always remember it being fantastic and amazing. And just, I convinced myself I got loads of fantastic sounds out of it. And then when I buy one again and play with it, I just go, oh, it's not quite as great as I remember it. But maybe that's me, and maybe that's the kind of music I write. But again, this is great. These things go in my gig bag. These are my travel bag. These things are great just because they're small. And I think the only beef I have with this is that it's kind of a good beef and not a good beef. I've got a System 8, as you know, and so I've got the 101 emulation already in that, which is monophonic, and I'm hoping,
this will do 4 voices, won't it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that there may be an update for the plug out for the System 8 to make it 4 voices as well, because I feel slightly peeved, really. But
bit cheated.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this I'll get one of these to go with the 202. But yeah, I don't know. But you're right about the form factor of the boutique. They have made they've made a rod for their own back, really. And I'm sure that there's some people in there just going, I think we might have made it a bit too small, guys. But we can't suddenly move away from that form factor.
Yeah, but, I like the idea of having like a wall of boutiques. I mean, when you go to trade shows, they've got those displays where they've sort of got every Boss pedal ever made, and it's really
completely
impressive. And then the same thing with the boutique. There is definitely a kind of collectible aspect to it. But I mean, also I was wondering, because I had a phone call from a chap called Stephen this morning who phoned up, and he was sort of wondering about whether Korg would make some of their synths available as VSTs, which was the Poly 800 and other synths. And I'm just wondering, at what point does it stop being the cream off the top of the product range and you start mining into these and trying to convince people that these were classic synths and should be reimagined in boutique form?
I'd probably say at a Poly 800, to be fair, I'd probably say that was kind of the point where I just stop. What an awful synth! I've never seen the Poly 800 love. Never seen it. So that is the point where we stop.
Okay, that's fair enough. I know, Ben. Have you got any? Are you thinking? I hope they make a boutique.
The 101, just what I was thinking, it's got this kind of plasticky beef to it, if that makes any sense. It kind of does sound weighty, but I think it was function over sound for me. I had one for a little while and ended up getting rid of the original. I accept its iconic state in electronic music history and things, but I think the SH09 and the SH2 sound much better to my ears.
SH09 is a monster bass machine, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the 09's super simple. The SH02 adds a second oscillator in that's tunable rather than just a stub. Much more musical to my ears, but really simple. There's no sequencing, no arpeggiating. You've got CV gate on the back, CV gate out on the keyboard, and that's it. But it just does those, when you just want a single oscillator, that just does all the old Roland that I'd kind of want. I know what you mean about the range of boutiques, though. I almost want a kind of canvas-sized frame on the wall with all the pocket operators in, and then I keep finding myself with this weird gear lust for those like curved wooden stands to put the Volcas on, and then go by all of the rest of the Volca range. I know what you mean.
Do you think we're going to see in like 50, 60 years time, or maybe longer, we'll see kind of the big auction houses selling kind of complete sets of weird and wonderful electronic instruments that came as sets? I wonder if that'll
I think what you'll probably find is lots of people like us, old men in retirement homes, trying to palm them off to buy stuff. To be fair, buy food and medicine with that collection of Volcas and boutiques. It was worth something in the day. It'd be like that.
I think that's probably a very good point. It's I think so. Let's not forget also there's this guy, I think, as well, which is the SP404A, which while it sounds fairly trivial, this was a really big stalwart of hip hop guys, as an alternative sort of cheap MPC type thing. And this is a jam. So this is the new 404A, which I'm just going to have to figure. I don't know what this is actually doing. I know, Gaz. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, haven't we? The concept of the 404, and it's the sort of place. There's quite a lot of guys on YouTube doing sort of hip hop beats with those things, so they'll probably be happy with that coming out.
Yeah, but I mean, there's very little new about it, though, is there? I mean, it's virtually the same as the existing model. It's just got the IRA color scheme. I think it's got a new set of samples that it comes with. I don't think there's anything new about the actual thing itself.
Does one of them go, get on the next ride?
Yeah. Hold tight. Here we go.
Yeah, hold tight. Here we go.
Maybe you could get preloaded with this fair carnival sound set, which is where I've been seeing them, at fun fairs. I think we did an episode where I went to the fair and saw all of the people with the rides, and there were these sort of board operators pressing buttons that sort of with hyper excited kind of voiceovers, so they didn't have to do it every time. They would just
The only thing that seems a bit of a kind of half-hearted effort to me is that they're kind of not claiming it's part of that range, of the R range, but they're kind of implying now that you use it with the TR8 and it complements it, etc. And they've gone
right.
Say again, sorry?
Yeah, you are right.
So they've gone completely, kind of with the rest of the range in a very specific kind of look and a very specific, kind of appearance. And then this comes along, and then they're going, hey, and we're designing this as a complement to the TR8 and
it's
part
got
of
new,
range.
Eric Morello in the chat room, the YouTube chat room, says I think there are new sync options, which may well in fact be the case, which might actually be.
Oh, that's
and I think. There's an update, isn't there, for the TR8, which means that they work kind of hand in hand. So, I think if you are a TR8 user, then this actually is a great way to expand the TR8 by sort of essentially bringing like a sampling capability into that workflow. I think it'll probably be really good if you've got a TR8, this new one, because it's I think it's going to be pretty effortless the way that they sync and work together. I think that's one of the big things with it, really.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. Actually, maybe what we should do at this stage is think about what. There's also obviously this big. This is a kind of a big deal, isn't it? Let's see if I can get this to actually show up now. This is now my desktop. Hold on. 1 second. I'll be there in a moment. The obviously there's the new the tease that came out at the same time, which was the
Mind Sausage.
The Mind Sausage 101, which I think is going to be an interesting concept in terms of. Let's see. I'm just trying to get my desktop to show up again. Here we go. If I bring this in, yeah, here we go. I think. Damn.
Mind Sausage. Such a great
I'm just trying to bring up the picture of it actually, because I know that there is a picture. And I'm just trying to get it to show up, because Behringer kind of stole the thunder somewhat with this kind of rather candid photo of the Mind Sausage, as we said. I think I've got it here. Yeah, which is...
Give me 2 minutes and I'll do a drawing. Hang on.
This one. There we go. So the concept of this being basically an actual sort of SH101 form factor with the grip and everything, that sounds like something that could be... I mean, it's not there yet, as in fact we haven't seen the Model D actually in production yet, but I mean, it's quite a sort of spanner in the works. It feels a little bit distasteful, but I mean, that would be kind of cool. Ben, would you rather have one of those? Oops, sorry, Ben. Would you rather have one of those, or would you rather have the IRA? Because I'm sure they will be competitively priced, as we know.
I'm not sure, really. I'd have to really hear them up against each other. The small stuff, like Ty said, and they give you flavors of these things really well. I think if I wanted the 101 specifically, I don't find it as kind of lustful as a Model D or an Oberheim SEM in terms of tone. So I'm not sure. I just had this image of kind of Uli sat back like the classic image of Scarface, just trolling
stroking a white cat.
Soon as someone else's news comes up, yeah, big cigar, just I'll show you. Hits the button, image comes out across the web. I don't know, really. I'm not a big stuff. I mean, ties all those keyboards and the luxury of space and things. I have a few behind me. I have 3 keyboards in terms of space just behind me there. And they take a little bit of knocking off the stand, really. I've tried to sell everything bar 3 keyboards, and that's all I'm willing to have in the room at the minute. No, to be honest, it's a bit of a boring answer, but I don't feel much for either of them.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair answer. Gaz, yeah, sorry.
So, I mean, can we just officially call it the Mind Sausage, even if they choose not to go with that
I
name?
think that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll stick with
and
that.
everyone listening, can we just make that? Can we just sort of like, because it's such a brilliant name, and I think, you know, a bit of silly, that's great. Well, there was something I wanted to say before, though, regarding the boutique one, or rather it's a query. And I was very impressed with the System 1, the plug out of the 101 in the System 1.
Yeah, that was quite good. I did a comparison with the hardware, and it was pretty close. Yeah.
That's right. Really close, yeah. And I was just wondering, are they using the same code base, or is this going to be different from that? I mean, obviously, it wasn't polyphonic, but yeah, because I think it was really good.
It is a brilliant piece of product design, isn't it? Basically, you sell the same thing over and over again, but just put different combinations of the same code in different cases. I wonder if that means that you could actually put another synth in one of these boutiques as well, so you could have it be something else too. That's a bit, interesting thought. I think it's probably time for a word from our sponsors. So we'll just let you enjoy the Isotope RX6. So this is well, it's not so new now, but it's the latest version of RX6, which is sort of the industry standard for audio repair and fixing. It's got a load of really, really useful tools. RX6 adding debleed for removing headphone spill, things like that. We've also got the ability to edit multiple tracks at the same time, getting rid of ground hum, ground noise. There's a vocal de-esser and a vocal debreather, which with modern production techniques is definitely something that's probably going to be very useful to you. Breath control, spectral de-esser, also very useful. Plosive, I say. And a lot of really fantastic tools. And there's two versions. There's obviously the just regular RX6, which does the music production stuff, but then if you want to go really full, you can get advanced, which gives you much more sort of the post-production type of things. But RX6 is definitely worth watching, worth checking out. 10-day demo, isotope.com/RX6. And obviously, we have a competition. This week, we are asking if you will enter the competition. What you need to do is be on Twitter. You can win a copy of RX6 Standard, and you can use the hashtag #TheAudioFixer. That's one word, hashtag #TheAudioFixer, and the hashtag RX6. And you mention at Sonicstate and at Isotope Inc. in the same tweet. So at Sonicstate and at Isotope Inc. will definitely get you entered for the competition. We'll announce a winner next week. And we actually have a winner from episode 500 as a chap called Mr. French 61. So his Twitter handle is Tim French 61. He tweeted the winning tweet for episode 500, which was a great episode. Thanks for everybody who's involved in that, and also to all of the kind guests. I know I haven't mentioned everybody who got me my special Clouds edition. I've got the box here, but the case is over there somewhere now. That was absolutely awesome, and I'm dropping everything. So Mr. French, if you want to get in touch, I'm dropping everything, please do, and you will then be bestowed with a full copy of Isotope RX6. So absolutely awesome stuff. Right, so what's next in our suite of topics? Oh yeah.
Hello, this is John from Zoom, and in this video we're going to be introducing the Zoom LiveTrak L12. The L12 is the only digital mixer that lets you mix your live performance and record up to 12 discrete channels, all while providing 5 individual custom headphone mixes.
This is actually quite exciting.
Now you can mix, record, and monitor with a single piece of gear. With its 12 discrete channels, 8
so you
mono
get a digital audio
plus 2
desk, you also
stereo,
get
3
SD
band
recording.
mid-parametric EQ, 16
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but basically the gist of it is this is a kind of an audio interface with a built-in it's a digital audio mixer which has got a audio interface, but it's also got an SD card slot, so you can record directly out of onto SD. I think it does 12 channels of WAV files. Now, I know I'm going to come to you first, Gaz, because we've been talking about kind of this solution for some time, and we've been sort of wondering why it hasn't happened. Do you think this is it? Because it's about, I think it costs about 500 quid, if I'm right, about 550. What do you reckon? Oh, have we lost you? Okay, let's go to caller number 3, Mr. Ty Unwin.
Gazzy's looking really thoughtful about.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was. I thought he was actually trying to think. Maybe.
Yeah. I was so tempted when that happened to just sit here and go.
No, please don't do that. That's my worst nightmare.
Oh, sorry. I think, do you know, I mean, obviously this isn't something, this isn't a market for me, but I think genuinely this does actually look exciting, because it's such a simple concept, and it's basically the concept of going back to our Tascam 4-track from the early 80s. It's a very kind of quite basic mix, although this is obviously more than a basic mixer, but a mixer, bit of parametric EQ, except the difference was then it was 4 tracks and it was onto cassette. But it's exactly the same principle. And I don't think Zoom get the credit that they...
Oh, they've innovated so much, haven't they?
They have, and I have to admit, I don't have, through the years, I haven't actually bought that many Zoom products. But they are one of those companies that are always under the, they're always there, and they always bring out things that make you go, oh, why has no one thought of that before? I mean, their field recorders are great. I mean, back in the day, their effects units for the money were amazing. Do you remember all the 1202s?
Yeah, well, they were a part of my LiveTrak for a while, because there was one which had a tap tempo delay on the front panel, which is really, just simple things like that make it very usable.
But they were the little things. They were one of those companies that always kind of pushed the boundary slightly and had the little things that made the difference. And so, I mean, this does look really exciting. If I was kind of starting out and maybe did live stuff, or you don't even need to do live stuff, to be fair. Let's be honest about this. Depending on what your music's like, if you want to move away from computers and laptops, and this is a great solution for that kind of money. I mean, if you actually just sit down and narrow it down to the spec, 12 tracks of audio, so 12-track recorder, 12 input mixer, kind of 8 mono and 2 stereo, whatever, an effects unit, compressor on every channel. Do you know what I mean? If you actually just break it down into basics, this is a bargain.
Yeah, I think it absolutely could be. I'm hoping Gaz will come back, because I know he's a fan of this. I know, Ben, because particularly for like modular users, they always have the same stuff. You say those guys who've got the Firewire mixers, the Mackie Firewire mixers, and they kind of integrate it that way. But something like this, where you can record your live show and perform it, I mean, it's still a little bit on the large side, but perhaps not that big. I mean, do you think this is going to float? I guess it depends on the quality of the effects, right?
Possibly. I think amazing product. I was blown away by this. I'm friends with not enough space to, say, put a big digital desk in, like a Presonus or a lower end Midas desk or X32 or anything like that. And they're kind of umming and ahhing, because a lot of the lower price mixers may just have a stereo USB out, stereo send and return, or to have all 12 tracks recordable, I think is pretty amazing. And I think for mod users as well, because mixing in the modular environment's not quite there yet. We've seen a lot of the kind of performance mixers, but there's not much in the way of effects. And depending on how you work, a lot of us are used to that in terms of the DAW and backgrounds in other work. I think amazing, yeah. Just to be able to take 12 tracks and record to SD card or straight to computer, whichever way around, I think it's great. I don't mind that it's SD card. Someone in the chat popped up and said USB would be better. I'm not too fussed.
I don't know that'd be fast enough, actually, for 12 tracks. Yeah,
so I mean, we used to higher end SD cards, I guess, pulling video data through. Their recorders are great. H4 Up are the ones I've used. They've been fantastic. As Ty said, their effects, even their really cheap, plasticky double pedal guitar effects back in the day, getting into playing guitar, that was great for the money. And they made some really kind of well-built, solid tank-like metal pedals at one point as well. I think I've still got one off somewhere. Great. Other than it looks great. It sounds, the EQ on the portable recorders when I've played around sounds good. I tend not to want EQ on a little handheld recorder, but I have played around just for the sake of playing, and they sound good.
Well,
I think it's really welcome.
They're very utilitarian, because ultimately, I'm going to try this shot because it's kind of fun. They're very utilitarian in many ways, because I mean, we use the H4N for a really long time just to mix 4 inputs live into our camera. We could have a low cut, we can have compressor. We didn't often record, but we would do that. Gaz, I know this is something that's very close to your heart. The idea of this. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think they've nailed it?
Amazing. Yeah, virtually nailed it. It's virtually perfect. I was blown away by this, actually. I think it's a great shame there's no MIDI or synchronization options in there. I think that's the great shame. But
yeah,
I think other than that, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think the 5 headphones with individual mixes is fantastic. And the way that works is you've got 5 separate outputs on there. Each one of those outputs can feed a different set of headphones. They can either listen to the main mix or they can have a bespoke mix. And it means that the faders come up and the LED meters become sort of indicators to show where those kind of faders are currently set to. And it's so you can just, call up different musicians' mixes, get bespoke headphone mixes. I mean, pretty basic headphone mixes. You can't adjust the panning or the effect. You don't get effects in the headphone mixes, but it's just levels. I think what they've managed to do here is just get all of the essentials. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, if you're looking for an audio interface, you've got to give this
that sort of price. I mean, if the mic amp,
the mic amps, yeah.
Stuff like, I could run the whole show off one of those easily, and I could be recording everybody individually. I mean, it's that Swiss Army concept, it's like I take it to rehearsal. I think the only downside is I think it's got 12 preset locations, which is a bit on the low side for something this flexible.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, you've only got a single effect send, the one effects, I mean, there's compression and EQ on every channel, but only there's just the one send. People are kind of going, oh, it's a real shame there's no auxiliary sends. But I've had a good read of the manual now, and I think you could actually use the mix A, which is separate from the main mix, as a stereo sort of send. You'd have to use up a pair of one of the stereo channels as a return. But wow, I mean, this is great. I mean, it's small, it's lightweight. Zoom stuff is kind of pretty indestructible. I mean, they're kind of built,
it's good,
like, not like toys, but sort of, they're sort of
they do design well.
I think so. Again, what are the pre's like, or what are the converters like? If they get that right, because I mean, they've been doing their sort of high-end Thunderbolty sort of range now. So will this see some of the benefits of that? I mean, the older models, the R16 and I think the R24, is it, that I don't know if they're still concurrent with this or not. Slightly
not
different
sure,
products, but they were quite good. They were pretty good, but it's just the preamps just not quite there. But
they might be new ones on there. I don't know what.
I'm
let's
hoping.
Have a look, see what the features say.
I think I read that they are. So this thing could be a real winner.
Oh look, there we go.
Really.
That's what it looks like on the front panel. So yeah, 3. Let's have a look. So channel strip, plenty of inputs. High Z. It doesn't say anything specifically about them, but I guess that's just one of those things. I don't know. Okay,
it's
but
funny.
I mean, sorry, Gaz. Yeah,
I was just gonna say it's funny seeing the little display there is very similar to the H2N.
Oh yeah,
the same font.
And the H4,
yeah. But in terms of the actual recording facility, it's very, very simple. If the overdub button isn't lit and you press record, it creates a brand new project without, as far as I'm aware, without you having to set up a new project. I might be wrong about that, but then when you press the overdub button, it basically it's more of a replace button. Any channels that are
that's all right. I mean, that's traditional style. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting about it is, and I'm not sure if this is possible, whether you can play back a session. So, you could be in that sort of virtual sound check kind of scenario, which is going to be useful. I mean, on a small format desk, it's probably of limited use, but it's still something that could be useful for tuning up a system or whatever. I mean, I guess that's the thing. If it had slightly more output, then you could run monitor mixes and, actual stage wedges or all that kind of stuff too.
So I was trying to work this out. I was trying to work out if there was any way that you could change how hot the outputs of those headphone outputs are, because they refer to them as monitor outputs that can be used for headphones. But
right, okay. So maybe that's sorry, who was that? Was that Ben?
Sorry, yeah, I was wondering that in terms of the effect sends. I thought if you only need 3 headphone outs, could you treat headphone out 4 and 5 as 2 mono sends and bring them back in on a channel if you've got one spare? Or
it's always possible. I mean, you could dim it down or whatever. Yeah, I'm sure it's not inconceivable. Yeah, nice work though, Zoom, I have to say. I'm just going to interrupt the broadcast just to bring you the news of I found this the other day, and this is our new Wave Junction Max for Live synth. I haven't mentioned it for a while, and I found this demo, which I actually really quite like. So Max for Live synth, this is Wave Junction. It's available as Max for Live device. 2 oscillators with wave shaping. We've got 3 multi-mode filters, 5 envelopes, 5 LFOs, 12 slot modulation matrix, and it really does sound pretty good in my humble opinion. And we're offering this a special 10% discount code. If you go to bit.ly/wavejunction, which will take you to the store page, you can get a 10% discount code with the code WJTalk17. So if you want to save 10% on what is already a ridiculously low cost item, you can do so by going to bit.ly/wavejunction. WJTalk17 will get you there. I'll just let it play out so you can enjoy the sonic fullness. There we go. That's all our plugs done for today. Let's see what's next in the topic list. We can do a few things here. And what does anybody want to do? Does anybody want to do the Wolfgang Palm or the Alive in VR? What's the choice here? I guess that's what it comes down to. Who
Was it Palm or
the Alive in VR, the VR interface?
Oh, Palm.
Okay, let's see. I think I've got that here. So this is the it was teased before. It's another killer app from Wolfgang Palm, which is called, I think it's called Infinity. Oh my gosh, Infinite. Sorry, Wolfgang. Yeah, and it's an iOS device only, which is interesting. At the moment, I guess there may be a VST available, and it's sort of more variants on their wave shaping, but they've done some really fancy kind of stuff with the XY pads and making it much more kind of touch friendly, I suppose. And we know a lot. I mean, I know Gaz, you've heard of a lot of his stuff, and you know his previous apps were really, they really have pushed the boundaries of what's been available on the iOS platform. Is this something that you will be picking up?
Oh yeah, definitely. Although I feel a bit guilty that I've hardly scratched the surface on the previous ones. I thought the Wave Mapper was really interesting because that one, you had the different components that you could move across a field of wavetables, and really, really interesting idea. And I was always super impressed by how good it sounded, and also lots of depth to it as well. And prior to that, there was what was the one before that? The Wave Mapper. I can't remember now.
I can't remember either.
The first one. I think it was just the Wave Mapper. Maybe. But the Wave Mapper was the one that I really have enjoyed so far. And this one is quite interesting. I can see lots of kind of graphical and user interface things which are similar. They're not the prettiest interfaces, are they? I have to say.
No, I guess
they are quite utilitarian and a little bit bewildering at first as well. However, the sound quality is brilliant off them. I'm basing this on the other two. Is it Wave Shaper? Is that was the old one?
What's this one? This is Infinite, PPG Infinite.
Oh, the Infinite. No, I mean in the first one, it's Wave Mapper.
Okay.
Anyway, but I mean, Wolfgang Palm is such a legend, really, isn't he?
I've got a brilliant photo of him here, actually. This is he just is an absolutely archetypal German boffin. It's a brilliant picture, isn't it? He just kind of looks the part. It's awesome, yeah. I don't know, Ty. I'm guessing, PPG stuff that has a resonance with people of a certain age, doesn't it? Because it was the kind of super synth, or one of the super synths of a certain era. I mean, does it still have the same kind of? I don't know whether iOS synths fit into your workflow so much because it's kind of fiddly to get the audio in and all that.
Do you know, I fall under the trap of into the trap. I have no idea. Whatever the trap is, I'm there, and of buying them all and then playing them, going, wow, this sounds great, and then very rarely using them. And I've got all of the Wolfgang Palm stuff, and they do sound great. Although, I'm slightly, this one I'm not so keen on from a sound point of view. So I bought it when it came out, and I've been so busy I've only had time to have a quick play with it. I think the interface, I know what you mean about it being utilitarian, but it's a really good interface to use. But the way that it's set up is quite bewildering, and exactly as Gaz said, you're kind of thinking, hang on a second, I've got to get my head around this. But the way that it uses the iPad, the touch screen is really good. I mean, this is one of the good uses of an iPad, having that kind of moving and zooming in and, very, very tactile on a touch screen surface. And this is a great interface. It may not look the best, but it's a great interface
in terms
to
of
use.
use, that's interesting.
In terms of usage. But, and this is the big but here. There's so much promise in there, but I've only really messed the presets and then had a kind of a mess around. Honestly, for me, it doesn't sound that great. It's very easy to make whooshy, tinkly kind of sounds, but there's nothing about the sound of it when you're actually playing it that grabs me at all. There's a quality to the sound which is, it just sounds very, it's hard to explain, but it's very artificial. It's very kind of fake kind of sound.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but I really want to like it because I can see the potential. And this could simply be a case of you need to get in there, you need to do the program yourself, you need to learn the way that this is working and go for it. And you could be able to come up with some incredible sounds because all the promise is there. But
how are you monitoring? How are you monitoring it? How are you monitoring it, Ty?
I've only monitored in a pair of cans, but not Apple, proper cans. And so it's when I say the sound, it's not in terms of the conversion or whatever. It's literally just there's a quality to the sound of the synthesis, which is just not, I'm hoping it's there.
It's funny. Sinister Goatfish in the YouTube chat room says "whooshy and tinkly is the whole basis of my sound palette." So it's obviously going to suit some people. I know, Ben. Ben, sorry, wrong button. There you are. You've got all your hardware there. I mean, are you kind of getting into the old iOS thing? Because I mean, a lot of people in the modular world are using iOS things to control modular stuff as well. I mean, is it something that you've sort of embraced, or are you still yet to find the niche for it?
Yeah, it's here. The thing with these kind of apps, for me, all this is subjective. I take them away if I'm away anywhere or any kind of travel time where I'm not driving. And I always tell myself there's some great stuff. And I tell myself when I get home, I'm going to put this up and I'll either record it as a sample and pull it in the computer or hardware or something else. And for some reason, I never do. And then I go out and I do the same thing again, playing around with, like I said, holiday, traveling, some amazing sounding things. And I just don't tend to integrate it. The only app that I've really got into is the Fugue machine, which runs 4 voices with different speeds. So you can see the sort of transport bars kind of crossing over each other. Some can play in reverse, some can loop. You can change speed and direction. So one kind of penciled in MIDI line easily becomes a more complex kind of moving thing. And that threw a little MIDI interface into hardware. It's an excellent app, really stunning app for creating melodic work. Voices are quite simple on the actual thing themselves, but you can change octaves and basic kind of tuning offsets. But getting that out across 4 MIDI channels, either into gear or into a DAW to edit the MIDI, is really, really good. That tends to be the only thing I ever integrate. I'd like to see some more hardware that integrates some of this kind of technology.
Yeah, well, that's always. I mean, because at the moment you're kind of still at icon activity to kind of bring it in digitally, aren't you? I mean, there are other ways, but that's kind of one.
I tell you what, the way I'm working with it at the moment is blowing my mind, and that's using AUM. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, the mixer, and I'm using it connected to the Behringer XR18. And what that is like a kind of, it's like a mixer that you can. It starts off with no channels, and then you add channels, and each channel you can choose whether it's a hardware input. So it's got 18 hardware inputs. I've got all my synths all running into it, or it can be an input directly from an app, and then you can feed it through you can put any amount of inserts in. So you can insert some built-in things, EQs and compressions and that sort of thing. Or you can put it through what are becoming increasingly good now, which is the iOS version of audio units. A lot more stuff is kind of coming out on that now. And the fact is, you can build this bespoke mixing desk that sort of is combining hardware and software. It's beautiful design.
Okay,
it's so slick and gorgeous. You build up these things, and then you can start to it really starts to kind of create this really nice sort of fusion of software and hardware. And it's brilliant as well, because you've got a global record button as well. So you can just hit record, and then it'll record all the channels. So if you've got loads of stuff going on, different sequences, different bits and bobs, you can make these really sophisticated, sound palettes. And I have to say, it is absolutely brilliant. And the more I'm playing with it, Nick, I think we should do a feature on it actually, because it's mind blowing. It is actually, it feels like how like the technology, like we did Sonic Touch for a number of years, and we were seeing a lot of promise, but it was always that problem of
integration,
bringing things together. And you see, because it can act as the master clock from Ohm as well. So
interesting. I wonder if it could. I wonder if the Zoom LiveTrak would interface directly with iOS.
Yeah,
because that would be pretty awesome as well.
It would. It's got Zoom has got a special switch on the back which puts it into a class compliant mode. So you would do that, and then you would as I mentioned, when you load up a new instance of Ohm, of course you can save any amount of presets as you want. But it's just this fact that you build your mixer from scratch rather than being bombarded with channels and all sorts of stuff. If you want to only just do like a really simple 2-channel thing, you just create just what you need. And it's a beautiful, minimal, and just the way that the touch interface works. If you want to, if you put an insert in and you want to take that insert out, you just slide it off the line. Similarly, and then if you want to eject it, you slide it and then just eject it off it's managed to get that beautiful multi-touch workflow in. Seriously, it is absolutely brilliant. It blows my mind how good it is.
I'm just
Can I put in a request that you two do a feature on this?
Okay.
Honestly, especially with a multi-channel interface, you see, the two together makes it really good.
So Deroden in the chat room, YouTube chat room, asked, does that mean that he can bring his iOS apps out into separate hardware channels of the XR18?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does.
You
all inputs and all outputs.
Yeah.
Exactly
you would
that.
need the XR18 would need to be configured to be a USB return, rather than a hardware input. But that is interesting. Yeah. I'm guessing it benefits from running on something like an iPad Pro or something a bit more beefy, right?
Running it on my iPad Pro, to be fair, and the iPad Pro with that extra real estate as well makes that whole experience very, very cool indeed. But as I mentioned, it's just that minimal approach, which I think is really, really nice. The fact that you build it as you need it rather than, as I say, having to navigate an enormously complicated thing.
Can you use MIDI controllers with it as well to kind of then integrate that?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this is starting to sound good. Ty, are you
beautiful.
Are you thinking for your mobile setup maybe, or is it which is going to be the LiveTrak or the?
No, it also LiveTrak with a LiveTrak with an iPad Pro.
Okay,
sorry.
That all sounds really useful. I mean, I use the iConnectivity rig when I'm getting stuff in, but that does sounds really interesting. Exactly as Div Kid said. Can you do something about that? Because that looks good.
Let's do it. I will. I'll commit to it now. As to when, but I'll say it's on the list. Right. Okay. Well, I think we might be approaching sort of. Oops, no, that's the wrong button. I'm going to do this one. I can't get Ty in, but when he's got his new system, he could be in that bottom corner down there, so we can have a little Thor's up action. So I think what we're going to do is say that's it for this week, and thank you ever so much for everybody for joining. We did try and get through a bunch of stuff. I know there's more topics. Maybe we can save a couple of them for next week, because as August generally is a little bit bereft of content, because it's usually software updates and bundles, which we will cover actually, I think, in maybe next week. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I want to say also, don't forget, if you want to enter the iZotope competition, all you have to do is you tweet the hashtag the audio fixer and the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. to enter the competition to win a full copy of RX6 Standard. That's the hashtag the audio fixer, one word, and the hashtag RX6 to @iZotope and @Sonicstate, @iZotope Inc. Sorry, and @Sonicstate. But that's it for this week. I want to say thank you very much to all of our guests. Ty, thank you for joining us. I hope now you can actually go and get another couple of hours Zeds, or are you straight back into it?
No, honestly, I'm so shattered. I need to just go and get a couple of hours.
You were alluding to some kind of tech hell actually before the show started. Is it something you care to share, or is it something that's just...
It's just one of the... It's actually a problem with... because I think I told you, so I switched over to the Nuage system, and so the screens have all had to be in different places, and I've spent wasting so much time trying to get screens at the right height, and I had the brainwave idea of scrapping all of the computer screens and just buying one 43-inch computer monitor directly in front of me, but it has to go above the Nuage one, which meant that the bottom of the screen was at eye level and the top of the screen was at the ceiling. And for some reason, I thought this would be a good idea.
Oh, no.
It was probably the worst thing I've ever done in my life. It was such a mistake. And then when I stripped it all back down again to meet a deadline, everything just decided it wasn't going to work.
I do feel for you.
It was just one of those, really. So
it's funny. I think there's been a week of that, because we've had exactly the same issues here. There's been issues we've had like hard drives corrupting and had to recall kind of systems restores and whole systems. And it's just been one of those weeks, and it happened across like 3 or 4 machines. It started with that kind of the Microsoft Skype only supporting 64-bit versions, which I found a workaround. So your machine is being kind of hacked effectively to bring you into the system by going into the package contents and changing a string in the plist info file, so that it will support. I mean, it's just an absolute bloody nightmare, and that's where it all started. And then I set up this new video system, which I think is going to work fine. I might have been a bit distracted because it's a whole new set of parameters to kind of think about, but I've got it all in front of me, so I feel like it's worked. And the video quality, I think Gaz's camera and also DivKid's camera, definitely way better than we've had with Skype in the past. And I don't know, and you get a stereo return. Oh yeah.
Can I mention I lost my internet's gone. My internet system, my internet went down, like yours did last week. This is coming off my iPhone. This is at the moment this is connected to my iPhone with a personal hotspot.
Bloody hell! So that's really good.
That's pretty good, isn't it? I had a panic on, it went down. It just went. I don't know. Did you see it went off? It just went off. I was
you did.
I think,
you went away. Wow. So that's impressive.
So the net went down. Couldn't get it back on. Rebooted the router. Thinking, oh no. Thought I'd give it a go, and it's not too bad, is it?
So 4G. Do you get the feeling that someone out there doesn't want this show to happen?
I don't know. I wonder. Well, okay, that was me last week. Gaz this week. Maybe Ben, you can have a turn, or one of our other guests.
You can have a turn.
Certainly something weird this week. I had 2 modules, digital modules, do something really weird. I won't name names because I don't think it's anything wrong with them. The day after, I just couldn't replicate the problem at all. So I was kind of trying to stress test this stuff, trying to stress the power in the system, pull more than I probably should, seeing if it would do it again. Every single setting conceivable, and I just cannot get it to replicate. So I've had an odd going on with digital stuff.
Yeah, it just goes like that sometimes. I always used to find that when there was a big change in humidity or temperature, things would go wrong, and people go, "Oh no, things are supposed to operate," and it's like, no, I don't believe that, because things, just a little bit of a kind of creak in a PCB board and the seat, it needs to be reseated. Yeah, also it does happen, and I don't care what anybody says. And I think the chat room, I don't know if the chat room agree with me or not. I haven't been giving them much love here, so I'm putting a bit of chat room on there. So yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I want to say thank you, Ty, for joining us, and spending some of your hard-earned sleep time talking to us. It was much appreciated, and I hope that everything kind of works out. Tomorrow is another day, or maybe in your case, it's still the same day. I don't know. It depends on how.
Often is, yeah. So it's been great. Thank you.
But it's a pleasure to have you on as ever. And also, DivKid Ben Wilson, do check out his videos. What you got coming up? What's next on your channel, Ben?
Pamela's new workout from ALM, a 8-output module that can do gates, LFOs, random, really nice musical things. You can offset the phase of everything. You can delay things. So creating, a flam between a clap and a snare, having slightly different micro swing on things. Great for really kind of humanized both modulation and rhythms. That'll be the next video.
That's good. I've seen Pamela's workout featured quite heavily in certainly a couple of the rigs that we did at Cymru Beach in June, I think. There were a couple of people who used that.
Yes.
And all I can think about it is Pamela Anderson. I don't know if there's any association with it at all, whether that's where the name
Yeah, there's a little kind of cartoon graphic of, it's only really basic outline, but almost Pamela with a furry legging kind of stuff on, like an Eric Prydz video. Little outline drawing that comes on the packaging. Actually, is it? Oh no, it's not. You only get the font. They come in tubed rather than boxes. There's no drawing on it, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame.
But yeah.
Oh well, I was sort of right then. Nope, that's it. Well, thank you very much, Ben, for joining us. But we'll look forward to that on your channel.
Yeah.
That's DivKid video on YouTube. If you search that up, then that's where it'll all be. And also, Mr. Gaz Williams, thank you for struggling through your own technical difficulties. And I'm very impressed that it's working on your iPhone connection. That is absolutely awesome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Isn't it? Yeah. So can I say what I'm doing? No.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, what are you up to?
Well, I'm playing at Green Man Festival this weekend. If anyone's going, it's a great festival that happens in Wales. I think it's his 15th anniversary this year. Lovely festival, really, really nice. Playing with Asteroid Deluxe. Going to play The Lawn, which is our album, which I always go on about. But we're also going to do we're going to workshop our next album, which is called The Moons of Jupiter. I don't know if I mentioned this one before, but it's for 4 band members, and each band member has been given a moon. These are the Galilean moons. I think there's a lot more smaller moons, but the 4 moons that I think these were the first celestial bodies other than the planets that were discovered, I think, back in the days of Galileo, using a device called a cellatone, which is like a weird like telescope attaches to your head. So we've called our record label Cellatone. We've got a new label we've just been setting up. So we're gonna actually workshop the moons of Jupiter, and it's gonna be quite good fun. So the 4 band members have each been given the moon. I'm Callisto, Bang is Ganymede, Andy is Europa, and James is Io. And what we're doing is we're looking at the moons, and we've working out various things to do with the moons themselves, to do with like in James's case, Io has got this really inhospitable atmosphere with lots of earthquakes and sort of volcanoes, and I think it's sulfuric atmosphere. It's apparently the smelliest place in the entire solar system. So when we gave him that moon, it's like,
on a mini
thanks for that. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds very, very concept, Gaz. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
So this is going to be our next big project, but we're going to workshop it at Green Man, where we're basically we've just skeletal ideas, and we're going to just try that out live, just to sort of get a little flavor for it before we sort of dive headlong into that. We're going to make it on picture discs and getting pictures of each Hubble images of each of the moons picture discs. So each one which is a moon. So it's going to be quite a big project for us.
Excellent. Well, Gaz, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to everybody else, and once again, thank you to iZotope for providing the prize of this week's competition. Don't forget, check out RX6, iZotope.com/RX6. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time. I'm just going to play out with our little endy bit, and hopefully it'll all work.